Hello, it's Anthony Chadwick from the Webinar Vet, welcoming you to another episode of VETchat, the number one UK's veterinary podcast. And I'm super thrilled today to have Kelly Kessen and Kat Henstridge on the line today. We're going to be talking about brachycephalics. And Kelly is a vet at the Dutch charity Dier and Recht, which is Animals and the Law. And Kat is, of course, known across the world as Kat the Vet, social media superstar. I think it's fair to say, Kat.
Thank you.
It's really great to have you both on. And we're going to be talking about all things brachycephalic. Obviously, I think in the UK, the French Bulldog vies with the Labrador to be the most popular UK breed. Pugs and English Bulldogs are also pretty high on that list. And there's been a real trend over the last 4 or 5 years to start pushing, particularly BVA with discouraging companies from advertising using brachycephalic dogs. But I have to say, Kat, looking at the evidence, we are really lagging behind the European scene, aren't we? Particularly in the Netherlands. I know Kelly's going to talk about this. The Dutch are doing amazing things in just improving animal welfare, because these are dogs that are obviously popular with people, but they suffer a lot with veterinary problems, don't they, Kat?
Hugely. And when you really look at the evidence and the underlying medical problems that these dogs have and how embedded within the breeds that they are, how embedded in the breeds they are, it becomes harder and harder to justify their existence on any level. Once you start to look into it and start to learn about it and start to realize just how widespread, how constant, and how extreme the suffering is, simply because of the way the animals are bred to look. And we concentrate, of course, on the head end and the breathing, but then we've also got the skin folds and the allergies, the spinal problems, the hip dysplasia, front to back, tail folds, front to back, these dogs suffer. And we need to do something about it. And we've tried consistently to educate and to change minds and to gently persuade and to push for breed standard changes and that sort of thing. And Europe now, we in the UK, we're very behind because Europe has basically lost its patience. And rather than allowing the breeders and the breed clubs and the vets even to take the control, we've had our opportunity and quite frankly we've failed. Governments are stepping in and legislating against these animals because without, we've tried the carrot and it's not worked. We've tried a very gentle stick and it's not worked. So European countries, Norway has just had some legislation. The Netherlands has passed what I think is a fantastic law that's going to be incredibly successful. I think it's really the way to go. Other countries are coming, and they've decided that enough is enough. Changes need to be made, and unfortunately, without law change, no change will happen.
We'll bring Kelly in a second, but obviously in the UK we have the Kennel Club that decides on breed standards, and you kind of hope to see a more, just a better approach. But it seems that, unfortunately, the Kennel Club also moves extremely slowly, doesn't it?
Well, the problem is the Kennel Club actually has very little power over the breeds. It's the breed clubs that really have the power to change breed standards and to enact improvements. The Kennel Club is their overarching body, but they actually don't write the breed standards the breed clubs do. And the Kennel Club argument has always been that if they come down too hard, the breed clubs will leave the Kennel Club, set up on their own, and be completely out of that arrangement at all. Whereas at least within the Kennel Club fold, there is some degree of accountability happening. In the UK, what we have is we have the Brachycephalic Working Group, which is an organisation that's got representatives from the Kennel Club, from the breed clubs, from the BVA, from the research arms, from welfare organisations, and they all meet and they've all talked ad nauseum for years. I think it might even be a decade old. And
Yeah.
really, they have enacted zero significant changes, really. And unfortunately, I think it's because the breed clubs are involved, and there is a very, very stubborn refusal to change. They don't want to change. They don't want to
Mm.
change the way their animals look. And so, they're very focused on trying to improve health within. They're trying to improve health. It's not that they don't like their dogs, it's just that they like the dogs the way that they look. So, they're trying to improve health within the very restricted boundaries of how they think these dogs should look. But of course,
Mm.
that means that improvements are at a glacial pace or even no pace at all. Um, so yeah,
So perhaps if we highlight, that there is very little change happening in the UK with the system that we're using over the last decade. The
very
Dutch,
little.
a bit more direct, have been making some really good movements forward, haven't they? I believe there was the legislation that was passed. I think it was way back in 2014. So this is almost a decade old. So Kelly, tell us where we're going wrong and how we can perhaps start to move in the right direction towards the Dutch model.
Well, we have this legislation for almost a decade, but when it started in 2014, nothing happened. We had
Mm.
a perfectly good law article saying that you cannot breed with dogs with harmful features, but everything went on the same way. So we had to work hard to get it changed. And the first thing we did in 2016 was a big law enforcement request on 16 French bulldog breeders, which bred according the pedigree standards. And government said, well, this is nice that you have all these proof, but we don't see anything going wrong. We don't know what is a harmful nose, harmful features.
Mm.
So it was a very big thing to get criteria on the skull. And this request was the basic way to go, because everything, the breeders got angry about it, and inspectors of the government said, okay, we can see that this is not okay, but what is? So then the University of Utrecht got the task to make those criteria, and in 2019 they were published in March. And even then, there was almost no enforcement at all. Almost the only enforcement came from the request we did.
Mm.
And
At that point, I think, Kelly, there were warnings but no fines, were there?
in the beginning, there were only warnings and no fines. That's true. And politicians had to step into it to get government to act on the law. And unfortunately, there was a pandemic and a Ukraine war that
Yeah.
made inspectors have other things to do. But now the minister has said we had a transitional period, so you could use a French bulldog with a red snout, with a very short snout, in and crossing it with a green snout. It was allowed
Mm.
until August 23 this year.
Yeah.
But now the minister has says the transitional period is over, and we are going to enforce it very strictly now.
Kelly, perhaps we can just talk about these criteria of the skull because we've obviously
Yes,
got the green and the red, and I think the intermediate stage. So perhaps tell us what a green snout kind of looks like, but also what you kind of should expect from a dog that has
a
you
green
know
snout.
a normal snout for a French bulldog or a pug or whatever.
Well, for a pug or a French bulldog, it's not normal. They do not meet those criteria for almost all of the time. But a green snout should have a nose which is half the skull length. So you measure it from here till here.
Yeah.
This is the skull length, and this is the nose length. So for a dog, it needs to be half, and then
I
it's
think you'll
green.
need to do that for us again, Kelly. For those who are listening, you will not have seen that Kelly turned her head. For those of you who are watching it on webinar bet, you will see the model doing her work again. So you need to move over more and then do is it from the tip of the nose to the back of the head, basically? There you go. I'm modeling it now. Can you do it as well, Kat? Can we
Well,
do a
that's
model
not
of
It's
the
the
head
it's
is?
the it's from the forehead to the back of the skull,
It's
isn't
from
it?
the forehead, right?
Yeah. So that's the
yes, that's the
skull.
skull.
That's the
Great.
skull length. So the nose has to be at least a third. Is it a third of the length of the skull or a half a length of the skull? Did you say?
Well, if you go for green, then it's half. If you
Yeah,
go for orange, which is allowed, then it's a third.
right.
And orange is only allowed if all the other 5 criteria are green.
And of course, Kelly, as a dermatologist, as somebody who used to treat these dogs, it's the skin folds around the nose and the eyes, and obviously, as we talked about, the bottom. These are dogs that need a lot of maintenance just to keep them in reasonable shape with their skin. Cleaning those often because they get fungal infections in there.
Yes, it's a
So
problem.
with the green snout, I think there's no folds allowed, are there?
No, and that's the other criteria.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. This is so fabulous about the Netherlands legislation, and what we're talking about when we're talking about green, red, and orange is that this is amazing graphic where it's showing a normal dog's. It's in a cartoon form, a normal dog's face, and then a pug dog face, and this green, orange, and red. The red very close to the face, and then this orange section, and then green. And
Hmm.
any dog bred within the green is okay. Any dog in the orange, which is quite a narrow distance, isn't
Yeah.
it? Is fine as long as, like you say, there's other criteria like nasal folds and the ability to close their eyes. Absolutely basic.
Yes.
You would have
That's
thought,
not an unreasonable thing to expect, is it?
but it's what's brilliant about the graphic is it is so simple and so obvious, and so clear,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of the time we talk, as people who are really involved in this situation all the time, we understand it intuitively from our education and our experiences, but the vast majority of ordinary people just see pugs and French bulldogs and think, oh, they're cute, and they are cute, and
Yes.
they are popular. Um but that graphic is what is so fabulous because it is so obvious, and when you see it like that, you realize how debilitated and disabled these animals are. um and the criteria for the law are so simple and so basic. We need an animal that can close
Yes.
its eyes when it goes to sleep.
And
And then when
breathe and not snore.
precisely, and then when you spell it out like that, not only is it a very, because the criteria is so clear, like Kelly said, it's very easy to judge very quickly whether these dogs are breaking the law or their breeders are breaking the law or not, and therefore follow that up with fines. But also it's very easy for the ordinary pet owner and the dog lover to see it.
Hmm. Kelly, just to make it clear, so in the Netherlands, you cannot now breed a French bulldog or a pug. Is that correct?
No, yeah, well, that's correct. Yes, yes. And I tried to share the picture Kat was telling about, but I'm not so good at it.
No,
Oh, that
it's
looks
showing
perfect.
it's good. It's good. For those who are listening, do look out for the notes below the podcast, and we'll make sure we put this picture in, or we find some way of directing you to the picture, because it does make it very, very clear.
Yes, well, it is forbidden to breed a pug or a French bulldog. Um, yes, but if the dog is green in the criteria, and some French bulldogs are, then you can breed with it. So it's
Hmm.
not a breeding ban; it's a criteria ban.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, Kelly, because if you look back at pictures from 200 years ago, uh, British pictures, the English bulldog was a working dog. He was a sort of hunting dog against the bulls and so on, and controlling them, and a very fit and athletic animal. And of course, as time has gone by, we've basically shortened the nose through breeding. So it
Yes.
would be lovely to see the bulldog coming back without the folds and with the longer nose. So breeding those debilitating features out, which, as Kat says, are attractive to some people, but are not healthy for the dog and not good for the dog's welfare, I think it would be great to see that breed being resurrected into an athletic animal again.
An athletic animal and without all the inbreeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the point. These breeds aren't banned. There's no ban of these breeds. All the law says is that they need to be bred, you know, with a healthy ability to breathe. And this law very concentrates very much on their, head end of the dog. Like I said earlier, there's issues with the spine and hips and whatnot, but clearly the biggest suffering is the head. But there's no ban. These dogs can still be bred. They just need to be bred with a face, and then and everything can carry on. And if you I don't know if you're aware of there's a Facebook group called Cruffer, which, if you are at all interested in this subject and these issues, then I would really recommend that you join, which is run by Jemima Harrison, who did the Pedigree Dogs Exposed documentaries. And they regularly share, don't they, Kelly? Because I'm sure you're in there, pictures of French bulldogs that have been bred with noses and are being bred, like you say, on
Yes.
that sort of more,
Yeah.
you know, back to that original. And they look like French bulldogs. They look like French. If you showed that dog to, again, a member of the public who wasn't involved in these debates and said, "What breed of dog is that?" they would almost certainly get it right, because they still look like a French bulldog. And then you stand them
Absolutely.
next to the show standard dog, with its, it could, its face so flat you could put a ruler up against it, and you realize how ridiculous they are.
Mm.
Yeah, there's no excuse for it anymore, and there's no ban, which again is what is so brilliant about this Dutch legislation.
Yeah. And I suppose, Kat, if you took that dog to a dog show with the long nose, it probably wouldn't win the show.
It wouldn't get anywhere near the show. I mean, it would just be kicked out because it just adhere to the breed standard, but it is still a
Yeah.
member of the breed. And
Yes.
this is this is the problem, and this is the mindset that we have to change. And
Yeah.
I think it's the public opinion is going to be the key, really, to just go, well, obviously that's a French bulldog. Why actually do they look so extreme when clearly this
Mm.
breed can look like a lot less extreme and still be very, very recognizable? And that's already happening, isn't it, in Holland, Kelly? That public opinion of the severity of the breeding because of the publicity of this law is now really shifting, isn't it?
Well, we really have flat face shaming. People who are walking their pugs or French bulldogs in parks or wherever, they get messages from other people that, why do you have such a snoring animal? It's not healthy. And they get a feeling of shaming that they have such a dog. And this
Mm.
is a good thing. They immediately start explaining, well, I adopted him or I didn't know before. So this is a very good thing. Public opinion is really changing. And a more a better thing even is that our government said beginning of this year they are going to have a keeper's ban. So there will be a trade ban on these animals in the Netherlands if it goes like he said in January. And it means that people will not be allowed to buy or sell these dogs anymore. And this is very important because now breeders cannot breed these dogs in the Netherlands if they breed a dog with a longer snout, they don't get pedigrees, unfortunately, and they have a problem because their dog gives them less, money,
Cash.
cash, and people buy these still buy these dogs from
Mm.
out of the country. They come from other countries into the Netherlands, and we
Yeah.
don't solve the problem yet. So the trade ban will be there, and we already got a trade ban for cats, for Scottish fold cats, and it probably starts in January 2025.
Mm.
So this is a start.
Interestingly, Kelly, though, I believe in the Netherlands, companies can still use brachycephalic dogs and cats to advertise their wares. That's something that hasn't been banned yet.
No, still, that this is also a law that has been announced. The advertisement with animals with harmful features will also be prohibited. Um, but it takes a little time or a big time to change the
Mm.
laws to get it done. But it's
Yeah,
announced.
we are
Yes.
the same in the UK. Although I think BVA have been very good at approaching companies that use brachycephalics, haven't they, cats, and trying to encourage them not to use these animals in advertising going forward.
Yes, that's been, and it's not illegal in the UK, but there has been again,
Yeah,
and that was the point of the CRUFA. It stands for Campaign Against Flat-Faced Animals in Advertising. That's how that started, and that's how that went. And if you think about it, you don't really notice until you think. But if you think back in the UK, even just 2 or 3 years ago, you would see pugs on everything, notebooks and
yeah,
mugs and bedding and all sorts, and always in an advert, and always, and it has been an incredibly successful campaign and public led. This is the other thing, is you need to get that public opinion, and once you start pointing these things out, people have very quickly come on board, because it's such an obvious problem when you explain it well. And now any business that has an advert that has a flat face animal in it, I absolutely guarantee you within an hour they will receive emails or messages on social media from just
Yes.
yeah,
members of the public saying, "Are you aware that there is a campaign against this?" And then the BVA came on board, so they weren't the instigators, but they have
yeah,
legitimized it. So they took it and went, "This is an amazing idea." They wrote a document, and of course, if you're going to, ring up a national company, to be able to then send them the BVA document and say, this isn't just my opinion, this is the opinion of the leading veterinary body in the UK,
yeah.
it has been fantastically
It
successful.
legitimizes.
And
Yeah,
Yes.
removed these dogs and highlighted all the other wonderful breeds that we have. And so this, that sort of almost subliminal messaging that they are desirable and that they are cute and that they are attractive has been pulled back. That doesn't mean to say that people still don't think that. But certainly that has been a real cultural shift that has been incredibly successful, and it just shows you how something so simple, when you hit on a brilliant idea, can be so great. And
mm,
this, the public opinion, I understand the shaming, I do, and I, it makes me uncomfortable, because I don't want people to feel bad about owning their animals. I want them to love them. I want them to care for them. I want them to enjoy owning
mm,
their animal. But we still need, there has to be that mindset change that there is a problem with them, and that, love this pug, but next time maybe don't buy one. But Rowena
yeah,
Pack has done a load of work, hasn't she, to show that. And it will be interesting to see if in the Netherlands that actually that public opinion changes other people's actions. If somebody, if it becomes
I can tell you about that if you
social.
want.
Oh yeah, well, let me just, because in the UK, Rowena Pack has done quite a bit of work to show that, at the RVC, to show that people will buy a French bulldog, buy a pug, have an enormous amount of health problems, realize it's suffering and struggling, have to put it to sleep even because of those issues, and then they will go and buy another one. That experience of owning an ill animal in the UK doesn't seem to be following. So I'd be so interested to know what you're finding over there.
Yeah. Well, we did research in, and this was what I saw in practice, what you're telling me, like that you put a French bulldogs asleep because of a hernia or whatever other very bad problems he has, and they buy a new one. But we have information from VetPlan. This is an insurance company for animals for health problems, and we have several years of French bulldogs insurances information, and they said us that last year, beginning from the campaign we started last year, the amount of insurances dropped 7% in French bulldogs only. So this is a number we can use to say people are buying less French bulldogs.
I think,
Obviously,
Kelly, this was your campaign, Koop geen kortsnoot.nl,
yeah,
which
this
basically translates into don't buy short nosed dogs.
flat-faced dog. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, flat faced
It's
dog.
so
Kortsnoot.
hard hitting. Those posters are so direct. Were those pet plan figures? Are
Yeah,
they for the Netherlands or are they for Europe? What? Where are those
in the
written?
Netherlands,
In
they
the
were.
Netherlands. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I need, and this is what's sad, isn't it? Is we've tried to be nice and we've tried to be understanding and we've tried to educate,
yeah,
and until you actually come out with some really hard hitting and sometimes almost being a little bit unkind to people, nothing is changing. And then how long has this? How
yeah.
long have those posters been out, Kelly? Because they were with you guys last year, weren't they?
well, we started this campaign with the dogs behind my back in August last year. And now we just started, we added the cats. So we have cat posters
Second
now.
year.
And we translated it into English. So it's now don't buy a flat faced dog or cat. And you can find it on the internet in English.
There will be quite a significant backlash because how were those posters uh accepted in the Netherlands, because they're so direct. This animal, what's this one? There's like, don't buy one, and then there's like a flat face. Oh, a flat face is a disgrace. That's the one which is
Yes.
really
And
like,
a flat face comes
oh,
at a price.
yeah.
Yes.
How were they initially viewed by the general public? Was there an instant acceptance, or did you actually have quite a backlash from people who took this very personally?
Both. The people who own these animals were very, um, well,
Upset.
upset. Yes, that's a good word. Very upset. And some of them were very angry. But veterinarians, they are so happy with it because they a lot of veterinarians didn't speak out because they are afraid of their cliency going away to other people. I don't know what. And now they are all together, all saying this together. It's not only one vet or one organization. No, we did it all together with vets
Yeah,
and welfare organizations, and they are very comfortable to speak out now. And it spread out very quickly. We had more than 2.5 million impressions in the Netherlands in within 2 weeks or so, and that's a lot.
if I can just give my perspective on this, I think knowing the Dutch and the Belgians quite well, um, you are much more direct than us, and we are very polite, and we don't like to offend anybody, and so we will pussyfoot around issues, whereas the Dutch, and generalizing apart, because obviously I accept, but you are much more direct, and I think there's real pros in that. I was speaking to a Dutch firm that we work with, and they say, the Dutch sometimes can be too direct. You can
Mm-mm.
be too polite. It's probably. I mean, this is obviously working, and I think it's really good. I think the difficulty for a vet, and I obviously had bulldogs and pugs coming into my practice, is that we become a vet because we love animals, and we become a vet because we want to make sick animals better. And so when a pug comes into our practice with a skin fold problem or whatever the problem is, we want to make it better. And there's definitely that side. I don't think it's a money thing, but I think you don't want to hurt people's feelings because they've now got that dog. And it's as you're saying, Kat, we've tried all the gentle, oh, the dog isn't, these are not the most healthy. They need a lot of high maintenance. If you get a bulldog, it's a dog that you need to spend time with every day to clean the folds out, which are very smelly and unpleasant. And yet, that dog dies usually before it reaches 10, and then they get another bulldog. So,
Hmm.
we clearly, as vets in the UK, have not done it well enough to say, well, if you're going to go for a bulldog, get a bulldog with a longer nose. But of course, in the UK, they don't really exist, do they, cats?
No.
Well, in the Netherlands, it's it's not all happy thing or so, because the pedigree dogs, the kennel club still gives pedigrees to dogs who are bred like that, who do
Yes.
not meet the criteria. And we started a lawsuit against them, a public lawsuit, to stop them doing this, because they are um, messing with people with
Yeah.
giving those pedigrees to those dogs.
And it's not just Holland, is it? That's the other amazing thing, Anthony, you say about the rest of, I think that direct attitude is actually quite European in many ways. And we've had some legislation from Norway. And then Kelly, don't you, that there's other, is it Germany and Denmark are also on a similar track now?
Hmm. Yes, so it will spread out, and then I think England just has to go with it, go with the
Yeah.
flow, just to be polite.
I agree, Kelly, and usually I apologise at this point for Brexit and leaving Europe because I still feel that I'm a European. So I apologise, although I have to say I didn't vote to leave. So we still think of ourselves as Europeans, and I think this is an area that we're really being led by you, Kelly. Often the Dutch are so innovative in their approach, and it's amazing work that you're doing. I think it's for the animal, it's for the welfare and the health of the animals. So it's so important. We as vets in the UK all make a commitment to, look after the animals under our care and to do no harm. And I think, Kat, we both agree that perhaps we need to step up more on this issue, don't we? You were obviously already doing it.
Yeah.
Well, if I can give an advice, just go uh, get lawsuits, because then you get the government have to go forward. So with
Yeah.
lawsuits, we did it. It was not another way to get it done.
I think that's very true. I think that's, and I have tried and tried over the years. I think we all have in so many different ways to improve this situation and to reduce the welfare suffering of these breeds, and nothing is working. Nothing has worked in any significant way in here in the UK. Nothing has worked, and now Europe is showing us the way forward because they tried as well. It's not like we were doing it by ourselves and they suddenly have come out of nowhere with legislation change. But these
No.
European countries have realised that nothing else is going to achieve the aims of improving the welfare of the dogs that are in our care. And Britain is a different environment. More populous, more disorganized, lots of breeders. We talk a lot about the kennel club, but of course they represent a tiny proportion of the people who are actually producing dogs here. um so I don't know whether we will ever follow with legislative change. I'd be delighted if we did, but I just can't see that in our sort of social landscape anytime soon. But this movement is coming, and the in addition to the legislative change, like Kelly says, it's that public perception that is changing, and it is that societal and social pressures are going to have as much impact if you can raise the awareness at the bar and make people understand what is happening. The Brits are many things, but one thing we are is animal lovers, and if we can somehow get that message across, that's public opinion and attitude shift will also be very, very powerful.
Yes.
Kelly, Kat, thank you so much. This is such an important issue. It's been great to have both of you on, and thank you for the amazing work you're doing in this area. It is so important. So thank you once again for giving your time to chat to us today.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. And Kat, thanks to be here.
No, it's great to have you. I think it's awesome what you've done.
Thanks everyone for listening. This is Anthony Chadwick from the Webinar Vet, and this has been VETchat. Take care. Speak soon. Bye bye.